Hey guys, welcome back to another lecture. Today we're going to be talking about how to make your own training split. This is a really important video for long-term success if you're trying to get strong and if you're trying to get big. There's a ton of videos here on YouTube talking about whether push-pull legs is better than upper-lower, or if full body splits are the best split, people dunking on bro splits, calling them trash. I'm going to debunk a lot of this stuff, clear the air, and give you guys the confidence to come up with your own custom training split, because in my perhaps less than humble opinion, with my experience, it's better to just make a split your own thing at the end of the day. And if you enjoy your split and you stick to your split, that's really what matters at the end of the day. Important way you can think about this is that it goes back to a concept that you can't cheat work. Right? People are constantly looking for ways to cheat work. You know, if I do this in some special scientific way, it'll make it easier, right? I'll get better results. I'll take these fat-burning pills, or I'll take testosterone, or I'll do intermittent fasting because somehow a magic amount of timing between meals and fasted equals less calories. But in reality, you're just dividing up calories, okay? And the same is true with work for exercise. The split is simply the basic structure, the means by which we organize our work throughout a week, or sometimes it's less than a week, sometimes it's more than a week. But the point is this: your split simply determines when you do what on what days. Okay, it is irrespective of your total volume per week, your proximity to failure / RPE, right? Your rate of perceived exertion. So, whether or not you're training to failure or going close to that. And it also is irrespective of your technique. Do you show up consistently? Do you sleep 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep consistently, or at least 6, right? 4.5 hours of sleep with any split, regardless of who's selling it, who's telling you it's the greatest thing in the world, 4.5 hours of sleep is not enough to recover from exercise. So by the end of this video, you're going to have the confidence not only to make decisions with your own split, maybe taking one of the popular ones, push-pull legs or bro split, and making it unique to yourself a little bit by dividing up the exercises, but you'll also come to realize that it really doesn't matter. Training is very flexible in a lot of ways, and one of the ways that exercise training is the most flexible is how you actually divide up the work. It really does come down to your personal preference at the end of the day. Now, there are some things that are important to consider with a split, and there are reasons why I would consider some superior to others, but at the end of the day, here's a very important thing to note. If your weekly volume for your exercises is equated, it's basically the same thing at the end of the day. 10 sets of bench press is probably going to give you the same results of 10 sets of bench press, even if it's divided up differently throughout the week. So for example, 2 sessions with 5 sets per week, versus 3 sessions with 3, and maybe on one of those you do 4, so you still get your 10, right? Or doing 2 sets 5 days a week, right? So if the weekly volume for a given exercise is equal, the results are roughly the same. And that makes sense, right? You can't magically make yourself capable of doing more work just by manipulating the time. Okay, you would expect that the amount of rest you need is proportional to the amount of work done. So when people trash something like a bro split, it's like, oh, why are you going to blast your body and then be sore for a few days, and it's going to be terrible, you're going to have terrible performance by the end of it. Well, if you go in there with a laser focus for your chest and you do like 5, 6, 8 sets of chest, yeah, you might be pretty sore for a couple days afterwards, and maybe your last couple of sets are less focused than your first 2 or 3 sets. But chances are you've made the common sense decision with something like a bro split to do an exercise at the end of the workout that is less fatiguing. Maybe it's a higher rep range, not as close to failure. Maybe it's something like a machine or dumbbells where it requires less technique than a barbell bench press. That's a really good way to do a bro split. And you also think about the rest time. If you're going to blast your body on one day, it makes sense that you would need 5, 6, 7 days to recover from it, right? So with the bro split, oh, you don't train it for a week. Yeah, because you worked so hard, you needed a week to recover. That doesn't mean it's an obvious benefit. although some people prefer it.
If you go into the gym and you're consistent, you choose good exercise selection, and you push for progression over the course of 3, 4, 5 years, you're going to build plenty of muscle and plenty of strength, regardless if you're using a full body workout or a split training type of workout.
Now, understanding that weekly volume is the driver of exercise, right? We need to now look at important considerations in the split. So basically what you guys should be understanding is that there are more than 4 choices. That really is important. People really only talk about push-pull legs, upper-lower splits, full body splits, and bro splits. In my opinion, they all work. But guess what? You can customize. You can make your own split, and at the end of the lecture, I'll show you guys my own personal split. I'll explain it to you. It's going to sound a little bit complicated at first. It's not. It's really easy to follow along. But I find I get great success and great enjoyment out of mine, and that's why I don't train any of these 4. It's not that I think they're bad necessarily. All right, so other considerations for making a training split. You want each of your workouts to feel manageable. It's not that you can't cram 2 hours of resistance training with heavy strength training, and a bunch of accessories, a bunch of isolations, and some cardio, and call it a day, right? And do that 3 times a week, maybe on a full body workout. Sure, you can do that. And you'll have plenty of rest days, right? If you're training full body 3 times a week and you're really going hard, like you're really trying not to be minimalist, and you're going heavy on the compounds, and you're getting all kinds of isolations, you're not skipping your rear delts, your traps, your calves, your abs, your glutes, you're getting things done. It's going to take a lot out of you, but you have 4 days off. So just like the bro split, right? You're blasting your body, but you make up for it with proportional rest. That being said, one of the reasons why long-term I don't prefer to program that for clients or recommend it to people or use it for myself is that as you get more advanced, your work capacity goes up, your lifts get heavier. Okay, you're not talking about a weight loss client where they may only have 10-pound dumbbells at home. So it's fine to do some exercises where none of them are failure, none of them have a ton of peripheral fatigue, right? Like it's something they can recover from really well and get done in an hour. It's not something that's taking 2 hours. And those workouts that take a long time, they become less manageable. The more you try and cram into one workout, by definition, the less manageable that workout becomes. You should be striving for great performance on each and every exercise. And this isn't just about your strength work. This is about all of your exercises. Yes, it's less technically demanding to do a set of biceps curls, even if it's a set of 10 or 12 to failure. That's reasonably heavy, compared to a set of 5 on bench with 2 or 3 in reserve. But regardless, by the time you get to your isolation work, it is a great benefit if you can perform in a state where you're not so pre-fatigued that it shaves off reps and reps and your ability to recover between sets. So regardless of what exercise you're doing in your program, it just makes sense that if you're going to do an exercise, you should do a good job at it. So dividing up the work throughout the week or longer if you train that way or less, you need to be striving for performance on each of your exercises. And how you divide it up might determine whether or not you have very high performance on those exercises. Also understand this. This is a big one. There are no magic rules for how you create a program to begin with, but in particular, there's no magic rules for pairing muscle groups together, right? So chest and back, or bis and tris, or in the case of push-pull legs, getting all of these movement patterns together, right? You're pairing together movement patterns that train the chest, the front delts, the triceps together. Why? Because it sounds good, right? It sounds cool. Oh, wow, I get to do all my push stuff on one day, push-pull legs. It literally just sounds good. There's no logical benefit to doing that. And you might say, oh, well, if I train on my push exercises, I don't have to warm up as much on exercise number 2 and 3. That might be the case, but guess what? You've already done hard sets for those muscles on that same day, so you're pre-fatigued going into it. Is that an obvious detriment? Not necessarily. If you're diligent, you don't skip workouts, you sleep, you eat your calories, you write everything down. Even though you're consistently training some of your exercise in that pre-fatigue state, thus lowering your performance, over time you'll still make progress. And if you finally take a week off or deload, you'll get to realize a lot of those adaptations and you'll say, oh wow, I'm a lot stronger than I thought I was. Why? Because you were continually training in a fatigued state. It's not that that's an obvious detriment, it's just not my preference, and it might not be yours either. So it's important to consider. There's no magic rule for what muscles have to be on the same day or what movement patterns have to be on the same day. If the work gets done, it gets done. That is what matters. Work needs to get done. No split is effective if you skip your workouts. And no split is effective if you're going to rotate it every 2 weeks or 3 weeks and say, well, I was going to do upper lower. Okay, now I'm going to do full body. Okay, now I'm going to do push-pull legs. No, now I got sick of this. If you're just hopping between programs or you're not showing up consistently, you're not being accountable to yourself or your coach if you're working with one, then it doesn't really matter what split you're doing. That's not even a secondary issue. It's like it's a tertiary or quaternary issue, right? It's definitely not a primary issue what split you do. Okay, so the work getting done on a consistent basis, you can't cheat work, right? How are you going to get around it? And this is on a similar note to the performance of each exercise. Prioritizing key lifts in any program is a great strategy to get good at those key lifts. What do I mean by key lifts? Well, it'll be things like bench presses, squats, deadlifts, overhead press variations, maybe weighted pull-ups, weighted dips, things that take time to set up the equipment, things that take more time to warm up. They're more technically demanding. They're more cardiovascularly demanding. They're going to require more technique, efficiency, more thought. Okay, these are the ones that are most energy, time demanding, and so on. So you want to make sure that your other exercises aren't getting in the way of your ability to perform key lifts. And if they are, well, then that's one of the factors that comes into play with how you progress and how you feel on a session-to-session, week-to-week basis in any of those key lifts. So when you guys get to see my program at the end, what you'll see is that my strategy is essentially to put my key lifts first, and everything else is just a bonus. And you will see that in my program, there's very random exercises thrown together, literally just for the goal of prioritizing my key lifts. There's no theme where, ooh, the upper stuff's together, or ooh, I'm going to do my push stuff together. No, I don't think that way. It just doesn't make sense. It's not logical. It's not scientific. It just sounds good to cram a bunch of, whether it's upper body work or push work or pull work. It just sounds good. It doesn't actually yield a tangible benefit in reality. Okay, so that really covers the important considerations. So when you guys are making your program, think about how to prioritize your key lifts. Again, it doesn't matter. There's nothing magic about Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's up to you. What does your week look like? What does your job schedule look like? What does your home life look like? Do you have a wife? Do you have kids? Do you have siblings to look after? Younger siblings? Are you in high school? Are you in college? What does your life look like? Right? Structure your program to fit your life, because yes, exercise is awesome, and I'm a personal trainer, but exercise at the end of the day is not priority number one. It's up there in the top 10. For you, it might even be up there in the top 5 or top 3. Okay, certainly for me, it's up there. But you have other priorities in your life, so your split really should allow you to live your life and do a good job at the responsibilities that you know you have to do on a weekly basis. Exercise is not an excuse to be irresponsible in other ways in life. All right, now let's take a look at customizing some splits. Now what I've done here is I've given you guys some examples to look at. These 4 common splits, yes, even the bro split. We're going to show a modified bro. I'm going to show you guys a modified bro split. It's pretty fun. These are ways to make it, in my mind, these 4, so push-pull legs, upper, lower, full body, bro splits, how to make those more manageable, more performance biased. We're going to ignore the magic pairing of muscles and movements. We're going to focus on work getting done, and the way that I've customized these 4 popular ones, going to be prioritizing key lifts. Okay, so let's get into it. First one, we're going to look at push-pull legs. Now, one of the things I find is a struggle with push-pull legs, I already alluded to it earlier. You go from one exercise into the other, and because you're working similar muscles, it affects your performance significantly sometimes. Now, one of the ways that you can get around that is you can have like a week 1, week 2 system where you're biasing more, overhead press one week and more bench press the next week. And just by doing that, you're going to feel better on whatever exercise you're doing more for that week. So I'm not saying that it's a better program in terms of like getting gains faster or getting more work done. You might find the ability just to recover better, or subjectively, you can get more work done, more quality work, better reps, and maybe that means better gains. But again, this is just a preference thing. I think it would be better mentally to just see yourself perform at a high level with all of your exercises, at least some of the time, than to see yourself perform with really low performance on some of your exercises all the time, right? If that makes sense, then great. If not, here's another way you can think about it. So you can alternate pushes, pulls, and legs. So basically, throughout the week, you can have like a push one and a pull one and a push two and a pull two and a leg one and a leg two. So on one of those leg days, you can be more focused on squat than the deadlift. I know not everybody puts squats and deadlifts on the same leg day, but for today's purposes, we will in our hypothetical. You could also put different back work on different days, right? You could focus more on rows on one day and more on weighted pull-ups. And you could have like a secondary exercise. So you could do weighted pull-ups and seated cable rows. And then on another day, you could do heavy pen lay rows and then like a lighter, more volume work on a lat pull down. That would actually be a really nice program. I don't think that it's obviously in any guaranteed way going to give you more gains, but I think it'd be more fun. It would feel better. Your reps would be of a higher quality. You'll be more satisfied with what you accomplish training that sort of a way than just to hammer everything the same all the time. So consider that if you're going to have 1 week schedule that stays the same, within that week, alternate some of your push, pull, and leg exercises, or develop a week 1, week 2 system where you bias, one particular push movement pattern or pull movement pattern over the other, and then week 2 you switch. It's that simple. So again, it's not that I think push-pull legs is bad. I just don't recommend them to people that often, and I don't like them that much. I've trained with them in the past, got good results, but I also pushed myself too hard because I got frustrated with being pre-fatigued on my overhead press. I was doing too many overhead presses and tricep exercises, and I ended up pushing myself to the point where I got triceps tendonitis. And that wasn't necessarily because the work was divided up that way. It was because I felt the need to push myself harder to make up for my lack of strength, and I got carried away. That doesn't mean you'll get carried away if you train push-pull legs. That's a mistake that I made. That's on me, not you. But still, consider this. If you like training push-pull legs or you're considering it, think about it. All right, upper-lower split. For the upper-lower, one of the ways you can make it more manageable and yada, 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 you can take the upper and the lower and remove some of the work that would be done on those days and then push it to a 5th day. And you could just, generally speaking, call this like an accessory day. Like I don't want to say filler exercises, but what it's doing is it's subtracting from the other 4 days in order to make each of them shorter, more laser focused, more performance oriented. You're prioritizing certain key lifts at the expense of others. And what that's going to allow you to do is, let's say on this upper day, right? That's a lot of work. An upper body day, to get it all done at once, that's a lot of work. I've done those in the past. I really enjoyed them. But same thing, you feel really toast on your exercises by the end if you try and do it all at once. So here's what you can do. On that upper day, you could do your bench, you could do weighted pull-ups, you could do your overhead press, and then instead of doing a horizontal pulling movement, whether that's a pen lay row or a cable row, you could push that 4th compound upper body movement, you could push it to the accessory day. And you could also do some of your arms work. So maybe you could do skull crushers on this day, seated cable rows. You could do your abs on this day in addition to some of the other days. You could do leg extensions on that day rather than doing it on these leg days. You could do a lot of stuff like that. You could even do shrugs and different shoulder exercises, right? Lateral raises, face pulls, things like that. And what that's going to do is it's going to free up time, space, and energy for you to focus on those upper and lower days. Now, my personal preference for this would be to go upper, lower, rest, upper, lower, accessory, rest. Now, you don't have to do that, but what you could do alternatively, if you would prefer to work 5 days in a row and rest for 2, you could put the accessory day in the middle, and then that would be a nice way to do it. I prefer to do it this way: 2 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on, 1 day off, etc. The reason being is that perhaps by doing the accessory day in between this lower and upper. You might go into these 2 days a little bit more fatigued. Maybe that's just mental. You won't feel as energetic. Maybe that's just me, okay? If you want to train it that way instead of this way, that's perfectly fine. But either way, you're going to get 2 rest days, and this is going to be a shorter workout. This might only be 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour at the most. So you're not really adding a lot of work. You're just making those other 4 sessions super duper manageable. Okay, let's go on to the bro split. Yes. Okay, so how we're going to make the bro split more manageable, we're going to delete the leg day.
Can't do this. I can't do legs today. Yo, guys, it's the vernal equinox. I'm not doing legs today.
Now, I'm not suggesting we delete the leg day so we can skip all the leg exercises. That would be silly. What we're going to do instead is take the work that would have been done on the leg day and divide it up basically across all the other days. So that way now you only have 4 training days. And just like I was saying earlier, sometimes you can train in a way where it's not actually in a 7-day period. You can condense it and then have sort of like a rotation where it just keeps going at the end of the 6 days or something like that. Or you could have an 8 or 9 day. Some people prefer that. But here what you're going to do is you're going to have a 6-day training program where on the 7th day you go back to the start of the program. So we're going to do chest and squats, or do back and calves, then a rest day instead of a leg day. Then we're going to do deadlifts and deltoids. Ooh, that's a fun one. And then accessories and arms. And accessories, again, I'm using that term more generically or more broadly than I normally would, but I just want that to be quick and easy to understand. Basically, you could do things like the good girl, bad girl machines. You could do some ab work. You could do some lower back isolation. Of course, with the arms, it could be curls and skull crushers, tricep rope push downs, things like that. You could also do your leg extensions and hamstring curls. And by doing that, you would free up some time in all of these days. So, only adding the calves to your back day, only adding the squat to your back day, that's pretty good. In addition, some people think that having a back day is a bad idea.
It's like vanilla ice cream. Vanilla ice cream goes with pretty much any other type of ice creams. The upper back is the vanilla ice cream of the body, so treat it as such.
Personally, I think it can be manageable, but one of the ways you can make this super manageable is to put some lower back isolation work, or again, one of your like face pulls or seated cable row, some kind of horizontal pulling movement on that day. So that way when you're doing like weighted pull-ups or lat pull downs and other back exercises, you don't feel as fatigued with all those exercises that slightly carry over to each other. So again, that's just a way to make a bro split really fun, really manageable. What this will look like is the first week, chest is on Monday. Then the next week, it's not. It's on the Sunday of the same week. And now the back day is on that Monday. And so if you just carry this out, right, this could take, basically like 4 weeks to go through a full rotation. But don't overthink it. Just maintain the routine. Like, don't overthink the schedule of how many chest days am I getting a month. Just stick to this 2 rest days per week. All the work's divided up. So ultimately, you're still training 5 days per week if you want to. Or if you really want, you could put an extra rest day, but that's probably not necessary. Okay, moving on to full body. Full body is a pretty good program, but as I was saying, the stronger you get, the more exercise you add, the less you train like a minimalist, the more a full body program is going to be problematic, or at least a pain in your butt. Okay, it'll be good for you to put hair on your chest, man. You're going to develop some good work capacity doing full body workouts, but let's make it more manageable, just for fun. One of the best ways you can do this is, instead of doing the same day 3 days a week, you can have a day 1 and a day 2 system with a week 1, week 2 system, which is very similar to what we're doing here at Push-Pull Legs, where we're alternating and then flipping. So you could have like day 1 where you're more focused on the deadlift than the squat, right? It's full body. And then day 1's repeated that week, and the day 2 is more focused on the squat than the deadlift. Doesn't mean you have to do no deadlifts or no squats on those respective days, but you're just focusing on one more than the other. So that might mean 2 variations instead of 1, or 5 sets instead of 3 or 4. And then week 2, you're just going to do the opposite. So here it'd be like 2 deadlift focused days, 1 squat focused day versus the reverse. That's it. It's very simple. And Another way you could do a full body day is just have a day 1, day 2, day 3 system where, okay, we're not talking about, flipping through 3 weeks. That's kind of what I do for my program. Again, it'll be a little bit confusing when we get to it, but what you could do here, simply put, is just have 1 week where you're doing, basically every muscle group, not really skipping, but because you have a 3-day system, you basically can prioritize, let's say, squat, bench, deadlift, right? Like you can focus on that and feel really good without necessarily only squatting once a week, benching once a week, deadlifting once a week. And again, going back to weekly volume being equal, if in this sort of arrangement, the weekly volume is equal to this 2-week system, then it's the exact same program, guys. It just comes down to personal preference and what you enjoy. Now, finally, there's my split. So this should be a fun one. What we're looking at is a lift-focused program. I would call it, and this is not it's not the catchiest name, strength-focused, low interference. Why? I'm focused on getting the most out of my key lifts as possible. Everything else I do in a workout is fun. Yes, I'm applying progressive overload. Yes, I'm tracking, I'm writing it down. Sometimes I'm warming it up, depending on what the movement is. But basically, I'm focused on my squat, my bench, my deadlift, and then second to that, my overhead press and my weighted pull-ups. Everything else is like a bonus. I love working out, it's fun, but my biceps curls and my calf raises and my shrugs, those definitely play second fiddle to my overhead press and my squat. That's just the way it is. So I look at my days rather than, I'm going to work out my whole body today. I'm going to work out just my upper body today, and today's just a chest day. No. I'm focused on movements being of high quality, high performance. So my day 1, day 2, day 3, rest day, day 1, day 2, rest. It's kind of similar to this, right? The bro split that I've got going on here, except with less different types of days. Basically, it would be like this. Here you would have like bench and squat. Then you would have pull-up, overhead press, calves. You can have some abs here too. And then on this day would be like an arm day, bro day, gym day kind of thing where you're doing like lateral raises, biceps curls, shrugs, and my deadlift variation. So in those 3 days, I'm getting a lot of work done, then I'm justifying my rest day, so I feel good. Then it's just 2 days, and then rest day. Now you might be thinking, that means you're only doing day 3 once. No, because the next week I'm going to flip through it, and now it'll be only day 2 will get pushed forward, and I'm only going to do day 2 once in a week, and I'm going to do day 3 twice. Then the next week it's going to flip, so I only get one of day 1. And at the end of 3 weeks, what that means is that my the number of sessions, right? At the end of 3 weeks, I've done 5 squat sessions, 5 bench sessions, and 5 deadlift sessions. Yeah, 5 squat, 5 deadlift, and 5 bench sessions. And that's a huge benefit, right? So the frequency, it's somewhere in between 2 and 1. It's closer to being 2 times per week, but I feel like I get a lot better recovery on this personally. And my volume tolerance is not the highest. So for me personally, this allows me to go into my workouts with a laser focus, knowing that in the span of 3 weeks, I basically get a mini deload. And because of this style of program with a 3-week rotation, I have a lot of fun. I feel good throughout the week, and I don't really need to deload that much. I still will if I plan on going for like a big PR, like a test week, maybe every 3 months or so, I might deload just for a couple days or do like a light session. But really, I don't need to deload much, if at all, because of this custom split. That's about it, guys. That's all I've got. So I want you guys to think about making your own programs. I don't want you to cheat on your wife. I don't want you to cheat on your test or your taxes, but I will encourage you to cheat on your training split. So you know what? Try some things out, have some fun, focused on getting work done, prioritize your lifts, the performance for the lifts. None of this really matters. Take a picture of it. Try some of these out. These programs are fantastic. Of course, this is not complete. This doesn't have specific exercises, sets, reps, proximity failure, and so on. But the point is this. These are really great ways to train from a big picture. You don't have to follow any of them. You can just stick to these if you want. Or do what I did, make up something of your own. Call it yours. If you guys have questions, let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for joining, and I'll see you in the next one.